Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon news update for October 28th, 2025. Today we're going to start at the church news where it says, when a prophet dies, the transition to the next prophet is orderly for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The established pattern is that the senior apostle becomes the next prophet. After President Russell M. Nelson died September 27th, President Dallin H. Oaks was ordained as the church's 18th prophet in a special meeting of the 12 on Tuesday, October 14th. In this church news video titled Transcendent Experience, President D. Todd Christofferson of the First Presidency and President Jeffrey R. Holland, president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, talk about their previous experiences participating in a sacred meeting when a new prophet is ordained. Let's watch.
In the setting where you reorganize a First Presidency, where the Quorum of the 12 as the presiding body of the church meets and takes that step. The two questions discussed are, one, should we proceed now in the reconstitution or organization of the First Presidency? And if that's affirmative, then the second question is, who should occupy that position as president?
We all know they don't ask that question. Like the article from the church news states, the transition to the next prophet is orderly. The senior apostle becomes the next prophet. Not sure why he is pretending that there would ever be some sort of vote about who gets to be next.
But I was impressed in that earlier experience when I was asked to say what my feeling or opinion was, how powerfully the Spirit came in that moment to me, to my heart, my mind, with the message, yes, this is the practice. Yes, this is how it's done. But more than that, it's my will in this moment that you take this step, or that this individual be called and set apart as president of the church.
This process illustrates the fundamental principle of LDS revelation. It is designed not to introduce new direction, but to confirm the established top-down decision. The structure ensures that the only acceptable and received answer is the one that has already been pronounced.
It is one of the most transcendent moments a human being could have in this world, is to be in the temple with those men and a new president, whoever it was. And I can say that he's set apart and our hands are on his head. And to do that is just clearly one of the rarest and sweetest experiences one human being could have with another.
If that is true, then why don't they find a way to allow all faithful members to experience it? Next, I recently made a short talking about how the church just announced 55 new missions, stating the necessity of such a move because of the massive, record-breaking number of missionaries out in the field. And one listener left this amazing comment. I used to work in the missionary department. During the bubble after the age change, they broke 100,000. The so-called record numbers of missionaries is at least 20,000 lower than I personally know of missionary numbers. Also, the KSL radio said it included church service missionaries, not just proselytizing missionaries. The hype about record numbers isn't just false, it's also spun to make it seem more impressive number-wise than is honest. It seems that the church may very well be reporting things in a way to allude to growth when in fact the numbers are really not that impressive. Which makes me think that this article from the Church News headlined, read about these 11 new, 10 reorganized stakes from Missouri to Mexico, is doing the same thing. Specifically, the use of the term reorganized, and including it in the same headline as new likely obscures the true net growth. Like the mission splits, reorganizing a stake often means taking two existing thriving stakes and dividing them into three smaller ones to distribute leadership burdens, or taking one large stake and one struggling district and using the new stake creation to stabilize the weaker area. Similarly, simply announcing 11 new and 10 reorganized stakes allows the church to claim 21 positive unit actions, despite the fact that the net growth is only 11, or even fewer if some of those new stakes resulted from the discontinuance or consolidation of multiple districts or branches. This subtle linguistic blurring creates a consistent, faith-promoting narrative of expansion that often requires close inspection of the underlying data to fully understand. Data that the church goes to great lengths to keep away from public eyes. And along these lines, let's look at this message that I got from a listener. They said, I saw your post about Oaks slowing down the temple announcements. Because of a family situation, I couldn't publicly comment. However, a friend of ours that has a calling in the church said that all of the temples already built are sitting unused and were built far too large. Church is exploring making modular temples in some areas. Also stated that Nelson nixed the smaller temples that Hinckley announced because they really didn't like each other. The person that told us handles all press coverage for the church in Utah. They are also friends with a lot of the brethren and play golf with them at Red Ledges in Heber. Now let's go to a letter sent out to members from the North America Southwest Area Presidency on June 15, 2025. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, our area is richly blessed with cultural and linguistic diversity. This provides us with sacred opportunities to grow in unity as disciples of Jesus Christ. To strengthen our homes, wards, and communities, we encourage all members to learn a second language. For many, this means improving their English. To support this effort, the church offers English Connect, a free program available through local stakes, open to all, regardless of church membership. For more information on English Connect classes in your area, please inquire with your local church leaders. Learning English can bless lives with better job opportunities, stronger families, more ways to serve, increased confidence, and humility. If English is already your first language, we invite you to consider learning another, especially one spoken in your community. Doing so helps us better connect with those around us. The Book of Mormon teaches they should look forward with one eye, having one faith and one baptism, having their hearts knit together in unity and in love one towards another. Mosiah 18:21. We testify that the Lord will help us as we seek to understand one another. As we improve our language skills, we will bless our lives, strengthen the church, and uplift our communities. With love, the North America Southwest Area Presidency. Was it just me, or did you also notice that the letter used the general encouragement to learn a second language as a subtle framework to prioritize the assimilation of Spanish-speaking members into the English-speaking majority? They achieved this by devoting the majority of the text, specific resources, and the detailed list of life-improving benefits exclusively to learning English. Conversely, the invitation for native English speakers to learn another language was treated as a secondary conditional suggestion, thereby making the letter function not as a balanced diversity initiative, but as an institutional directive to promote linguistic alignment and administrative unity. Next, if you watch my videos regularly, you will know that ever since the new LDS First Presidency was announced, I've gone back and forth between calling Dallin Oaks Dallas and Dallin. Why? Because when Gary Stevenson from the Quorum of the 12 announced Dallin via live news conference as the new prophet, he slipped up and called him Dallas. My favorite part of this entire debacle is that when I call Dallin Dallas, people who I can only guess claim to be active Mormons come out of the woodwork to have their gotcha moment and tell me that the least I could do is get Dallin's name right, which leads me to wonder, are these devoted members not watching their church's most important announcements? Why do they not understand what I'm talking about? Am I, an Exmo, more in the know about church goings-on than its most faithful members? Now let's go to some information from Rebecca Biblioteca. Her first post says, the Houston area peanut butter factory that supplies the bishop's storehouse desperately needs volunteers to cover the following shifts. And then there are a list of shifts, some that go through the night. And a related post from her says, these instructions for LDS volunteers at a peanut factory in Texas are pretty intense. These are only a small example of all the instructions, and many of the shifts the members are asked to volunteer for are in the middle of the night. They are also calling for volunteers to clean the factory. It just really seems to me that professional paid employees should be doing these jobs. My thoughts? The request by the multi-billion-dollar Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for its tithe-paying members to provide intensive unpaid labor, including middle-of-the-night shifts for commercial-grade operations like a peanut butter factory, raises significant ethical questions. The Church defends the practice as an essential component of the welfare and self-reliance program, viewing the donation of time and talents as a consecrated act of discipleship necessary for its nonprofit charitable supply chain. chain. I think it constitutes exploitation of religious loyalty and an unethical externalization of massive labor costs onto a devoted, often working-class membership, especially when the wealthy institution could easily afford to pay people to do the labor. Today's job market is struggling, and there are many who could benefit from these positions being paid. The church's reliance on members for the massive, arduous labor, like running a food factory, creates an intense culture of work, but this burden is not evenly distributed. For many committed individuals, especially the youth, this high-demand expectation leads to feelings of intense isolation and burnout. We've seen the institutional side, now let's see the human cost, the very real experience of a teenage boy who feels he is shouldering the entire burden of service and responsibility alone among his peers.
It's literally 11 weeks in a row because you idiots can't go up there. It's really annoying, and I don't like doing it all the time, but none of you go up.
Well, this is already in our presidency meeting that we should make assignments.
Last time we did that, the people were supposed to do it didn't show up.
Well, next time, Zach, just don't go up. Someone else will.
That's all I was just gonna do for the rest of the time. It's not because else no one else is gonna go up.
Next, I recently saw a TikTok from CES director that mentioned Wilford Woodruff and his birthday wives, and since I didn't know what was being referenced, I looked it up. Here are the details from an article in Exponent 2. It says, so let me tell you that story about Wilford Woodruff. To celebrate his birthday on multiple occasions, his 70th, 71st, 72nd, and 74th, Wilford Woodruff invited dozens of women and girls to the temple to do proxy work for previously deceased women and girls he then had sealed to him as wives. Woodruff recorded in his journal in 1877 that he had received revelation from God that the temple work should be done for and behalf of the wives who are dead, and have been sealed to my servant Wilford, or those who are to be sealed to him, and this shall be acceptable unto me, saith the Lord, and the dead of my servant shall be redeemed in the spirit world, and be prepared to meet my servant at the time of his coming. After their time in the temple, Wilford was surprised with a present of a birthday bridal cake 3 stories high. That's right, y'all. President Prophet Wilford Woodruff received a revelation that for his birthdays, he should gift himself wives, and ended up having himself sealed to 267 women and girls who he believed would be eternally bound to him and expected to bear him children forever. And last up today, let's finish with this great quote that says, colonial paradigms would have us believe that people were not civilized or cultured until they came across whiteness, were not educated until they came across English, French, Spanish, Dutch, and are not spiritual without Christianity. Unlearn that, please. And that's your update for today, folks. I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.